Hey, this is Matt Singleton, and welcome to another episode of biologos. Matt. Alright, today we're going to be doing a response to John Walton. And John Walton is a fella over at, I think he's like Wheaton College. It's a seminary, and they're teaching a view called literary framework hypothesis. And one of the things he's talking about when he talks about their cosmology and stuff like that is that his interpretation has it to where Genesis 1 is not a historical narrative. It's not a story, really. So as long as he's erased the story, then you can add evolution or whatever story you want to put in there. So, how do we respond to that? First of all, let's look at, how the New Testament and how the Old Testament would have looked at creation. Alright, this is in Colossians chapter 1, verse 16. For by him, Jesus Christ, were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or thrones or powers, all things were created by him and for him. And so basically, Jesus Christ, as divine, as God, he created the universe, and it was a material universe. Okay, so they understood material creation. Another passage to look at is Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 3. And it says that through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that the things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. So it's talking about material. Material was not made from material. That's evolution or pantheism. Okay? So God did not create the world by pantheism or evolution. God created the world by his word specially. Okay? Also, we look to the Old Testament. Old Testament, Exodus chapter 20, verse 11. It says about this, talking about the Sabbath command. It says, for in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. And so we see here, all of a sudden, instead of 7 days, we have 6. 6 days that are specifically about material creation. Okay? So in the narrative, it's a narrative where in 6 days is completed. Now, another verse that kind of enlightens this a little more is Exodus 31, verse 17. He says, it, talking about the Sabbath, is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever, for in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. Now, in other speeches, I have heard John Walton talking about us going through creation. No. Creation was a completed act. Okay? And the problem is that evolution is not a completed act. But creation is a completed act. Okay? Because God rested, he was refreshed. Now, as we go out, you see what he wants to do is he wants to say that the ancient people understood things only functionally. Now, for the most part, that's the way they thought. That was their thought pattern, okay? As far as, like, they thought about things in functionality. I don't deny that. But you only think of things functioning if you think of things or a material universe. So you have to have the material to have the functionality. The two concepts have to be connected. And it says here in chapter 1, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. Now, I used to think that was a chapter summary. But it says heaven and earth, okay? But over in chapter 2, afterwards it says, thus the heavens and earth were finished, and all the hosts of them. It said heavens instead of heaven, okay? And so basically, now all of a sudden it's plural. Why is it plural? Well, he says, verse 6, let the firmament be in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Okay, the firmament, that's expanse between the water and the ocean. And now there's a water layer that we would think of as ice or an ice canopy that would cover in the outer space and protect us. It doesn't protect us anymore. Functionally, it was to protect. Problem, we got asteroids and meteorites hitting us all the time now, okay? We had Russia got hit just a couple months ago. So basically, the function is wrong. That disqualifies his whole interpretation right there, okay? He said that basically when it came to science, that the science of Israel never exceeded the science of the pagans around them. Well, I would offer up this. Dietary laws. The science of dieting, okay? You look in Daniel, and you can tell that the science of the dieting of the people like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was superior than Babylon, alright? And that was by revelation based on creation, okay, in the creation narrative. So, once we kind of understand that, there are things revealed. There are scientific things revealed that were not revealed to the other peoples in each generation. And it's kind of interesting because there are scientific things that they knew then that the common man doesn't know today. They were great mathematicians back then. We still don't know exactly how they made the pyramids, for instance, okay, in Egypt, not Israel. Okay. But, you know, how the Egyptians made the pyramids. All sorts of great things that you would have to be a very advanced engineer to know. They've learned, and they had their sciences, okay? But basically, it is false to think that the Bible has nothing scientific to say. And it's also, you know, you are opening the door. He tries not to open the door, but you are opening the door to say, all right, well, there's a superior authority to Genesis. We can add their history to our history. And it's just not the case biblically. Now, I think one final concept that he wanted to kind of talk about a little bit was in his concept of the temple. He said that because it's talking about a Sabbath, it must be talking about temple worship. He says, for gods would dwell in the temple, and that was the ancient mindset. Now, this is kind of interesting to me because while God could manifest himself, he never rested in the temple as far as his being, okay? And this is talked about in the New Testament. Look in Acts chapter 7. This is talking to the Jews. He says in Acts 7:48, howbeit the Most High, El Elyon, dwelleth not in temples made with hands, as saith the prophet, heaven is my throne, and earth is my footstool. Okay? He says, what house will you build me, saith the Lord? Or that is my place of rest? Hath not my hand made all these things? He tells us also to the pagans. Okay? This is one argument against the pagans. And he's using a lot of pagan narratives here, and that's where he gets messed up, because they may be similar because they were closer to the truth back then, because creation and revelation were like right there in sync. But they still, whatever ideas they had, varied off from the Word of God, and so we have to take the Word of God as superior to the Word of man. Let me look here real quick. Acts 26. No, Acts 17:26. Alright. And it says, God that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is Lord of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands, neither is worshipped with men's hands, as though he needed anything, seeing he giveth all life and breath and all things. Creation, the whole creation story is the creation reality. It was told to us by God. God was there. He created it. That was his observations. Okay, that's God's account. God was the eyewitness. Okay, and so he wasn't trying to confuse us. All right, it's not man's word. It wasn't men trying to describe the way they felt like artistically. It was God expressing the truth, piece by piece. And so that is why we have to take God for his word.